It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado, Matthew Moreno, here to break down the NLCS on our normal Sunday show, but one day before the second to last round of the MLB playoffs gets underway. Matt, we've arrived at this point. I'm not going to say we've arrived because that would be the next round, but there were a lot of people that didn't think we'd make it this far, and here we are.
I know. Luckily, the three of us, I know, had the Dodgers advancing past the NLDS, so there's no surprise that we're sitting here doing a preview show. I don't think there's really any surprise that it's on the Brewers. You know, I thought when they went up 2-0 on the Cubs that was going to end up being a pretty quick series. Credit to the Cubs for fighting back, but ultimately, you know, Milwaukee prevailed. So, Jeff, a lot of expected developments, I think, is just the best way to put it.
Anthony, I think it's more appropriate to say at best 2.5 of us thought that the Dodgers would get to this point. I mean, again, we all heard, all the people in the chat heard Matt's prediction for the last series, Anthony, but if he wants to do a little revisionist history on the fly here, I guess there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being real here, look, Matt's gut had it right the whole time from what I understand. So, the gut is 1 for 1 there.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if we're going to get a gut prediction and a head prediction by the time we get out of this. We'll see if these two are lined up this time.
We don't need any more body part predictions from.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just stick with one prediction to keep this one. As always, we appreciate everybody on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter joining us. Thank you to those listening after the fact via Apple, Spotify, podcast, Google Podcasts. If you're a Google Podcast person, we appreciate you. Tons to get to tonight. We're going to do a series preview like we have the last 2 times. This is our third one now, a deep dive on the opponent. Who are we playing? The Milwaukee Brewers. What's the story on offense? What's the story on pitching side of things? And then also, what's the story as far as matchups go? So we'll do that. We'll talk about some interesting decisions that have been made regarding the Dodgers rotation. There were some reports that maybe Ohtani would be pitching in Game 1. We now know he will not be pitching in Game 1 or Game 2. So we'll break all of that down. And then we're going to make some predictions about the roster for the NLCS. We've done okay, Anthony, I would say, on our first couple of rounds of roster predictions here. As there's always surprises. So we'll see if we can predict some of those surprises. And then, as always, we're going to get to some questions at the end of this. If you want to leave a super chat at some point, go ahead and throw that in there. We've got one right off the top from back to back saying, is the advantage greater this series or the 24 NLCS? So, Matt, basically, I think the question is asking, do you feel better going into the NLCS this year than you did against the Mets last year?
No, I think the Brewers are a better team and can pose a bigger threat to the Dodgers than the Mets did last year. I remember, just as I remember predicting the Dodgers were going to win the NLDS, I remember doing our shows last October and saying, and even texting you guys saying, like, what are you guys worried about? Like, this series, it's a matter of if it's going to be 5 or 6 games, basically. And it ended up going longer because the Dodgers were punting, given their shortage on starters and bullpen games, stuff like that. But I recall not being concerned about the Mets at all. And I think the Brewers are definitely a little bit of a more formidable challenge this year. And I'll save the rest of my thoughts, though. That being said, I still do have maybe an interesting stance on them.
Anthony, I think I'm in the opposite boat. I think the Mets scared me more last year than the Brewers do, in part because of how the Dodgers were from a pitching perspective going into that series, but also just because I think I get terrified by a couple of names. It's not so much like what's the depth of the roster. It's the idea that I'm going to have to face Soto or Alonso 3 or 4 times each game that I think scares me. So I'm curious, if you could go back in time 12 months, how do you think you feel now compared to 12 months ago?
I'm going to hedge to start, but I'll give you a real answer. I think last year I felt worse because we weren't sure where the pitching was going to all come from in a long series. But this year, even though they have the pitching, the Brewers are a better team than the Mets were. So maybe those cancel each other out. That said, and you've heard me say it before, give me the pitching.
Yeah.
When you got four guys who, let's be realistic here, your worst of that four guys, we'll call him Tyler Glass now, would probably be a 1 or a 2 on realistically 26, 27 other teams.
Yeah.
Like, and that's crazy. And he's the number 4 guy in this rotation. So if you're giving me the better team, but you're giving me that rotation, I'll take that. I feel better about this, but I do think the Brewers are a better team than the Mets were last season.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go one step further, and this is going to sound crazy, and I'm here for it, and I'm totally content with that. Do the Dodgers have the 4 best pitchers still in the MLB playoffs? Like, once Skubal left, the Mariners got some good arms, but it's like you got Gossman over in Toronto. You've got Peralta in Milwaukee. I would take the 4th starter, Tyler Glasnow, who I think we would all probably agree is the number 4 guy. Not necessarily he's going to pitch 4th. We'll get to that. But the number 4 guy. I don't think there's a pitcher left in the playoffs, Anthony, that I would take over Tyler Glasnow.
That's very fair.
Like, I think it's the Mariners is maybe who you would go with if you were going to like be making a case. Brian Wu, 2.94 ERA. And then obviously Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby. Those guys are all good. Kirby didn't have that great of a year, but like, I think I'd take Glasnow over all of them.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair. Like, if you were to do that, I think that's fair. Major League Baseball put out their starting pitcher rankings earlier today, and I'll just read them off to you real quick.
Okay.
Snell. This is starting from the top. Snell, Ohtani, Logan Gilbert from the Mariners, Yamamoto, Trey Yasavage from Toronto,
Okay.
George Kirby, Tyler Glasnow. So 4 of the top 7 are Dodgers, and Freddie Peralta, for what it's worth, from the Brewers is 8th. I think Glasnow is better than Kirby and Trey.
Yeah.
Like, Logan Gilbert, I think, has a case, but yeah, I think the Dodgers have 4 of the top 5 at least.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I'm with you. That's why I think I ultimately come down to being more confident now. And we're going to get into the Brewers and the way that they manufacture runs, and it's different. And I understand maybe why I should be way more scared about the way that the Brewers score runs than I am. But there's something about a guy walking to the plate and thinking this guy could hit a 3-run home run at any point and the whole thing could change. Like, the Brewers are just not going to instill that kind of fear in us.
I 100% agree with you. This is a better team. And I have a little bit of an uneasy feeling. I'm sure we'll get into that toward the end of the show if we do predictions or whatever. But still, the way they have to manufacture their runs now, part of it they rely on facing bad defenses, and the Dodgers are not great. We'll say that, but they're not a lot of 3-run bomb. You know what I mean? Like, I know they did some slug in the NLDS against the Cubs, but the Cubs pitching is also terrible, which brings me to the point of they're going to have to do all this against, elite pitching.
Yeah.
And at least from the starting rotation. Can they do that for a long series? That's tough in today's baseball.
Totally. David says if we DFA Treinen, we'll be blessed with a series-winning trophy. I hate to break it to you, David. I think you're going to be disappointed when we get to our predictions here. Ivan says if you're unbiased, there's no way Ohtani is a top 3 pitcher on this team. He's great, no doubt. The other 3 are elite. There are levels to pitching. I would disagree with you on this one, Ivan. I think Ohtani is a top 3 pitcher on this team. I think Glasnow, personally, I would put him 4th. And yet, my point all along has been all 4 of these guys are incredible when they're healthy. The only knock on Glasnow is when he's healthy is like the biggest grain of salt that you could ever make an argument with. And so all of these guys are great. And again, we're going to break down the pitching rotation in a little bit. It just comes down to logistics, I think, when we get to how they decide to order these guys. So we'll table the conversation on starting pitching momentarily.
Real
Matt,
quick,
did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Anthony's point. The Dodgers in their game notes the other day Would you believe if I told you that they set a franchise record with their fielding percentage this year? Because I have the same belief and perception that you do of defensively. Like, I don't want to say they were awful, but like there was just some bad play throughout the year. But technically, it ended at .9881, and it's just ahead of last year, which was 9880.
Okay.
The 68 errors are the fewest in franchise history over a full season. So it's just kind of like, and I'm only bringing this up because I saw that the other day and I forgot to tell you guys about it. Like, there was no, if you would have asked me like, hey, defensively, where do you think this team ranks, like compared to all the other years? Like, there's no way I would have guessed that they were setting franchise records or even one of the top like 5.
Yeah.
Two things to that. One, you have to think fielding percentage is like a stat of real value.
Yeah.
To like,
because you have to touch, your glove has to get to the ball in order for it to qualify as an error. That's an important distinction.
Which brings me to my second point, is that I think the Dodgers don't like throw the ball all over the diamond anymore.
Yeah.
Like if it's hit at you, they can go get it. They got a couple of other guys who might, Edman when he's healthy, Kim when he's playing second, Mookie at short. Like they even with his limited range, like he's still athletic enough to go get a ball in the hole or up the middle or something like that, right? But he like that's kind of it for the most part. The other part of this is like they don't get a lot of errors, and that's what fielding percentage is, right? It's error based, and so they don't like you don't count errors when you throw to the wrong bases and give up an extra base, or if you take an awful route to a ball and it skips by you and gets to the wall, or those kinds of things aren't counted as errors, and so it doesn't affect your fielding percentage. Also, guys who have the best range tend to make more errors.
Yeah. And that's why they
get more balls and maybe they'll boot something or, balls that like other guys would normally not even get to. Justin Dean, that ball he got to and hit the heel. That's a great example. The Dodgers don't have another outfielder on this team who would have even gotten to that ball.
I love this from 300. I'm thinking they were all committed by Teoscar. Highly possible for sure.
Pages was in there too for a little bit.
Pages for a while. He got better as the year went on. But let's dive into this series preview against the Brewers. And I'll tease this. Anthony and I finished up an interview with Todd Rosiak of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel earlier today. So that will be posting tomorrow. We've got a deep dive on them with their guy who's been on the beat for 15 years. Ton of fun to talk to him. He took over Anthony's job after Anthony left. So, take that for what it's worth, I guess. And on that, I'm just kidding. But he had really nice things to say about Anthony. So I'll give him credit for there. But let me start here, Matt. Dodgers Brewers. These two teams played 6 times this year, all in the month of July. They played Milwaukee on the road in their second to last series of the first half. And then they came home and played them in the first series of the second half. The Dodgers lost all 6 of those games. The first series was 15-4. They were outscored. Second series, 16-12. And my question to you is simple. Do you care at all that the Dodgers got swept twice by this Brewers team?
Not really. And, Miguel Rojas was asked about that today. But he was one of the players that spoke before the Dodgers had their workout out in Milwaukee. And he said that the Dodgers were a different team at that point. They didn't have a lot of guys that they had. They didn't have Snell. They didn't have Glasnow. I forgot who else was still out. Kike was another who had I think he had just gotten hurt, which like
that might have helped the Dodgers.
Rojas. Yeah, Rojas might be thinking Kike in October rather than regular season. But look, he could still he can run into one, right? Theoretically, he's still somebody that they're counting on having. Ohtani wasn't pitching at that point yet. I don't believe
he wasn't fully up to speed for sure.
So, the regular season in general, I think it's like the regular season results the way Anthony was explaining kind of the errors and the fielding percentage and his can of Coke tonight is half empty, where for me it was half full. Same thing with the regular season, right? Like if the Dodgers had won all 6 games against the Brewers, we could sit here and say, look, they have a blueprint on how to beat this team. You stick to it, blah, 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 so on and so forth. If you're on the other side of it, which the Dodgers have been when, they played the Diamondbacks in the NLDS, I remember everybody was worried about that one, not the year that the Diamondbacks actually won. Before that, the Diamondbacks won, the regular season matchups and the Dodgers swept them, stuff like that, right? So it could go either way. To circle back to answering long-winded way of saying, I'm not too concerned about it. We've seen it go both ways. And so I don't think it really means that much. And especially in this case, if you're the Dodgers, because as I mentioned, and as I said, Rojas pointed out, they didn't have a lot of their players that now are available.
Yeah.
And, 2 times Kike compared to regular season version.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, Anthony, it's more about matchups. Like, I like to see, have we gotten to pitchers before? Because I do think there is something to a guy who has gotten a hit or a home run, even off of a pitcher. That sort of matters way more to me than the actual results of 9-inning games personally. Like, where do you land? Are you with Matt and I that it's kind of like, who cares? That was July. The first time the Dodgers were in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. Like, we all remember that losing streak going into the All-Star break. But do you put any stock at all into that 0-6 record?
Not really. And unless one team is just so overly like if somebody went 6-0 against the Rockies, I would be like, yeah, because they're just so much better than the Rockies. Like when anybody, even if the Dodgers would have went 6-0 against the Brewers, I just don't think it holds much water. It's almost fluky when you do that when it's 2 good teams during the regular season. So I don't put too much weight into that. I think I do agree too that this Dodger team looks the identity is very different than it is now, or I'm sorry, than it was then when they played. And they played in like they played one series and then another series and then they played them again. Like it was pretty quick there. They played them all within like a week, and so the pitching, I think the starting rotation is the biggest thing that for the Brewers. Like they saw Glasnow twice actually in those 2 series because they were Glasnow's first 2 starts back from the IL, and he was good. I think he threw 11 innings and allowed a one earned run in the 2 starts he had against them. But Snell wasn't in the rotation. Ohtani wasn't in the rotation. Yamamoto lasted like it was one of his shortest starts of the season. Yeah. Sheehan threw like 3 innings and gave up like a bunch of runs in one of those starts too. So like just very different complexion for the Dodger roster back then than for what it is now. And I think also for the Brewers, especially in the rotation too.
Yeah. I love this from Jose. He said, we had Ruiz, Conforto, and Outman taking at bats for us. Who knows? There might be some similarities in the NLCS. Stay tuned. 300 says, and the Brewers were super hot at the time. We talked with their beat guy today. I mean, they had 3 huge winning streaks at some point this season. So they led the majors in wins this year. So there were a lot of hot streaks.
And at that time, when the Dodgers ran into them, going 0-6 against the team is just it's crazy. I don't care how good that team is, but like at that time, the Brewers were arguably the best team in baseball, and this was before they were like could say like, oh yeah, we're going to have the best record in baseball. They were still getting there, but at that time, the way they were playing, they were clearly the best team.
Yeah. Aaron with the super chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, what are your confidence levels in each of the units going into the CS? Starting, pitching, bullpen, and offense. I'm a 10 starting pitching, 6 bullpen, 8.5 on offense. Starting pitching, I imagine we're all 10s on this, right? Like, I don't know how you could be more confident in a group to not only have good starting pitching, but have 4 of them in a 7-game series, right? Is that 10s from both of you?
10.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk bullpen. I have a feeling 6 might be optimistic here, because here's what I would say. And I'm going to say this now because it's helpful for everything we're about to talk about. The way that bullpens get deployed in this series is about to change dramatically, because we just came out of a series where it was play a game, have a day off, play a game, have a day off, 2 games. And then the Dodgers obviously didn't have to play a game 5. They're about to play back-to-back games with 1 day off, then 3 games in a row, then a day off, then 2 games in a row. And so this isn't I said going into the last series, you only got to have 3 or 4 guys you trust because you can use them every single game. That's not going to be the case in the CS. And so, Matt, give me a 1 to 10 level of confidence in the Dodgers bullpen. We got Roki Sasaki, and we feel a lot better about him than we did a week ago. The rest of the group, it's safe to say we feel probably about the same. I mean, Emmett Sheehan, we feel a little bit better. Everybody else, I think we feel worse about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still a 5.
Okay.
Because even with the high marks, or really, I mean, the Dodgers have 1 standout reliever, I think, right now, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
then you have somebody like Emmett Sheehan who like can get there. I mean, I think we were all confident in him going into the playoffs, but then we saw some uneven performance. Then he did bounce back, so great. But like, there's the fear, if you will, of which one, like, is he going to regress again? Like, you don't necessarily fully know. And to your point, for the NLDS of only needing maybe 3 relief pit, like the Dodgers really didn't get there in the NLDS with trust, like having 3 reliable guys. Yeah, like they needed to use Glass now, which that doesn't appear like they're going to do that stuff with their starters in this round. Clayton Kershaw, I know the second inning is what got away from him, but that didn't go well. So I'm at a 5 with the bullpen.
Anthony, where are you at?
Yeah, I think I'm a 5 too. I'm like a 9 on the 9th inning if they have a lead, or basically whenever they have to use Roki. But for the rest of the guys, everything's a little more iffy. So I think overall I'm probably a 5 because I think they're going to have to get deeper in the pen this series. They're not going to be able to mask what the bullpen actually is like they were able to against the Phillies in that short series with the days off. And I think that this Brewer lineup doesn't strike out a ton.
Yeah.
And we've seen this bullpen struggle if they can't put guys away like that. And so I think that could, at some point in this series rear its head that guys are battling and, maybe they're drawing walks or they just can't put a guy away and he ends up with a hit or something like that. So I do worry about their command issues in the Dodgers bullpen facing a team that doesn't strike out a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go 6. I'm going to agree with Aaron on this one. I think Roki being as good as he is just bumps this up probably a full 2 digits from where it would have been without Roki Sasaki. And so I'm going to go 6. Offense, although I'm going to dip on the 8.5 here. I'm going to say 7.5 just because I think there's a lot of guys with some questions going on right now. And they played incredible pitching. So you could talk me into, hey, they just faced literally the worst case scenario from a starting pitching perspective. 3 incredible lefties, which is a nightmare for Ohtani. It's a nightmare for Freddie Freeman. It's worst case scenario for a lot of these guys. And so you could say, hey, they're going to be better. The pitching is going to be worse in Milwaukee, and it's going to be a bunch of righties, which will be helpful. But Ohtani still won for his last 18 or whatever the number is. And so I'm going to go 7.5 on the offense because I still love the names, Anthony, but the current status, I believe in streakiness of offense. And so I think some of these guys still need to see a ball get caught flush with their bat in order to kind of reach their full potential.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a 7. And I think with the windows open for that to trend up and to the right.
Yeah.
But, they faced a legitimate ace in that series against the Phillies twice. And there are not many of those, right? There's less, you need less than 2 hands to count all the aces in Major League Baseball. And the Dodgers have 3. So that's a part of it, right? And so it's why I'm also not a 6 because now they don't have to face a Christopher Sanchez type anymore. And they're not going to see a lefty quite like that in this series, whether it's in the rotation or in the bullpen for the Brewers. But there's also, like you mentioned, there's also guys that just haven't looked good. Max Muncy's one of them. Andy Paz has been just bad. I'd like to see Freddie get going, but he hasn't done that yet. So yeah, I'm at a 7 right now, but I do think that not that the Brewers are bad with their pitching. They had good run prevention numbers all season long, but I think it could be a relatively speaking get right series for some of these guys.
Agreed. Matt, where are you at?
Yeah, I'm at a 7 also. And I do you can't take anything away from the Phillies. You need to give especially their rotation. You need to give those guys credit for what they did. What concerns me is stuff that the Dodgers, I felt like you can sort of control in terms of your quality of your bat. It's one thing if, look, and I get, again, Sanchez, Luzardo. I don't know why I'm blanking on the third guy. Suarez. Thank you. I get that they are tough pitchers, but I don't know, Jeff, you mentioned and not that I want to pick on Ohtani, but he's the most glaring example, right? 1 for 18 with the 9 strikeout. If he's 1 for 18 and putting the ball in play and it's just some of, the Phillies made good defensive plays like we saw in game 4 or, a little bit of bad luck and hey, Sanchez is just that good type thing, then fine. But it was a lot of, I felt like the stuff that the Dodgers, they got away from it, whether it was pressing, whether it was just a mixture of everything. And so their quality of at bats is what has me at a 7 as opposed to maybe a 7.5 or an 8.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Well, let's dive into this Brewers team because I think it's an interesting one. And we'll talk about the offense. Let's start. They score a lot. That's the first thing you need to know about the Brewers offense. In major leagues this year, they were 3rd in runs. How did they get there? 3rd in batting average, 4th in walks, 5th in strikeouts, 2nd in stolen bases. We were joking just before coming on. I was about to say it, and I was like, I'll save this for the show. This is the Matthew Moreno dream offense right here. Did I mention 3rd in batting average, 4th in walks, 5th in strikeouts, 2nd in steals? This is just old school small ball baseball, Matt. You've got to love this.
Yeah, it's batting average and leading the majors in wins. So that's you can't tell me that they're not connected there.
Here's the downside, though, and we can argue about if it's a downside. They were 22nd in home runs, although they did hit a bunch in the NLDS. This is a question Anthony asked their beat guy on the interview that'll be posting tomorrow, which I think is an interesting one. So, again, 3rd in runs, but 22nd in home runs. Some key names to know. Christian Yelich, name you're familiar with, 29 home runs, led the team. Jackson Chourio, 270 batting average, 21 home runs for him, one of the better young players in Major League Baseball. And then you got Contreras, who played hurt most of the season, but has started to pick it up as the season goes on. It's a lineup that I would say is strong top to bottom, but doesn't have any superstars. There's no Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber in the middle of this group that you're like, oh crap, this guy's coming back up again. Here's a fun stat from The Athletic, and this is a good one, I think, if you're a Dodgers fan. They said teams that hit more home runs have won 80% of the series they've been in over the last 5 years. So, Matt, this kind of hurts your argument here. Teams that have hit more homers have won nearly 80% of the series, while teams that make more contact have won fewer than 50% of the series. So more home runs, less contact. That's the recipe for success. Matt, that is not the Brewers' recipe for success. So when you hear the way that their offense is constructed, knowing what we do about the Dodgers rotation and bullpen, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I think two separate answers against the Dodgers rotation. Like you're feeling pretty good against the bullpen, like we got done discussing. Like that could go either way, right? I mean, if it's Roki Sasaki, sure, you're pretty confident. If it's Blake Trinan and he's struggling to throw strikes, then whether they hit home runs or hit singles, like Dodgers are going to be in trouble. What's interesting too is ironically the Brewers, they need, as you mentioned, they needed home runs to beat the Cubs.
Yeah,
and their lineup, because of the Dodgers throwing outside of Blake Snell, like more right-handed starters at them, their lineup could look different than what the Brewers had in the NLDS. So does that like change, not the complexion of their team, but it introduces kind of a little bit of a different element for this series compared to the last one. But in terms of overall season numbers, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, yeah, I think, what's hard with the playoffs is sometimes you get these guys like, it's happened for the Dodgers in, years, decades in the past where a non-home run threat happens to hit a home run at a crucial moment and it just flips the game and or a series. And so, you don't want to fully, overlook everything. And look, the Brewers won 97 games for a reason this year. And so I know you're not saying to take them likely to look past it, but, as much as we can kind of look at these numbers and say, well, this is the type of team they are, the offense, like I said, we just saw them use the home run ball to beat the Cubs.
Yeah, that's the flip side, Anthony, right? It's 7 home runs in 5 games in the NLDS. 3 solo home runs is how they won game 5. And so the question, honestly, to me is like, is that a fluke? Like, is this a team that's going to hit 1.5 home runs a game in this series? Because if it is, it's going to change the complexion for me. But if they're going to go back to being one of the worst home run hitting teams in the league, I'm going to like my chances a lot more.
Yeah. I don't think it's a fluke because the Cubs just didn't have the pitching. It was kind of in shambles there, and so the Brewers they jumped on them. I think it should not be expected in this series.
Yeah. You're saying we shouldn't expect them to continue hitting home runs in this series.
Yeah. I think the quality of pitching that they're going to face in this series versus what they faced against the Cubs is light years different.
100%.
They're in two completely different worlds. Also, we talked about the Brewers, how many runs they scored as a whole in the regular season. They led Major League Baseball in unearned runs this season. They scored 101 unearned runs.
Look at that stat.
It wasn't even close.
Love that.
The second place team. Take a guess, Jeff, what you like. The second place team, I kind of gave you a hint already, but if the Brewers scored 101, what do you think the second place team had?
I mean, yeah, like 75.
Yeah, close. 83. The Miami Marlins had 83 unearned runs. That's the gap between first and second place. Like they feasted on that kind of stuff. And even though we just had a conversation about the Dodgers defense not being great, they tend to not throw the ball around a whole ton. I mean, I know it sticks out in our minds because we watch every single game, but on the whole, they don't do that. and they don't hit a ton of home runs, if you're, the Brewers.
Yeah.
If you're relying on having to string together a bunch of hits or mistakes from the other team to score, let's say, a quarter of your runs against these starters, not a great recipe for success, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And that's kind of where I land is when I read this recipe, I'm like, this is the recipe that I want to be facing in the postseason. Again, the home run ball is what kills you. It's 1-2 swings, and all of a sudden 2 games have swung, and the series is very different. But if you're telling me I get Blake Snell on the mound, and you've got to string together 5 or 6 hits in an inning to score 3 runs, like I'm going to take my chances. That's just not going to happen against Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani, and Glasnow.
Agree.
So, let's talk pitching. Let's switch gears here and let's talk pitching. I have a surprise for you. The numbers are also good for the team that won the most games in Major League Baseball this year. Anthony mentioned their ability to prevent runs, 2nd in ERA, 3rd in batting average allowed, 5th in strikeouts. Their bullpen, 6th in ERA. And yet, as we have hinted at, their rotation as it currently structured is not great. They have an ace. It's Freddie Peralta, 2.7 ERA on the season. Matthew Moreno is going to love this. Led the National League in wins. Matt, how about that as a stat? 17 of them for you, big guy. 6th best strikeout per 9 in baseball. Did face the Dodgers twice. 1 good start, 1 bad start, 4 earned runs allowed in 11 innings this season. The problem is beyond him, it's a big shrug emoji. Brandon Woodruff would be their number 2 guy. He's out with a lat injury. He might be back if they make the World Series. I don't think they're going to make the World Series, so we don't have to worry about that. Next up, a gentleman by the name of Quinn Priester. 0.2 innings, 4 earned runs in his first postseason start this season, but he was good. 3.32 ERA in the regular season, but he doesn't strike anybody out, which is the theme for the next guy on this list. Jose Quintana, the only lefty, 3.96 ERA on the season. But again, the lone lefty that they're going to face. So far what we know about this group is that Peralta will pitch game 2. Game 1 will be likely an opener followed by either Priester or Quintana. They haven't announced what they're going to do. And basically it sounds like Pat Murphy is saying we'll figure it out from there, game 3 and beyond. On the bullpen side of things, their bullpen is very good. I mentioned 6th in ERA. And this is the scary part because they've got dudes that come out of this pen. If you watched game 5 against the Cubs, it's like Abner Uribe, 1.67 ERA. He's nasty. Tyler Megill, 2.49 ERA. Jared Koenig, he's a lefty, 2.86 ERA. Koenig and Aaron Ashby are the 2 lefties that we're going to see a lot of in this series. Ashby he might be like the opener in game 1 as a name to watch. Koenig, though, 550 OPS allowed against left-handed hitters, has faced Ohtani 4 times, struck him out 3. So that's a guy that Ohtani can get used to seeing at some point in this 7-game series. But Matt,
the new 2024 Tanner Scott.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully the Dodgers don't offer him $75 million in the offseason. So, Matt, when you hear a rotation that, again, on one hand, has Peralta, who's very good, 2.7 ERA, again, led the league in wins, and then Quinn Priester, Jose Quintana, opener in game 1, no plan in game 3, definitely no plan in game 4. They've got Jacob Mizorowski, who is looming and was great in the NLDS. The beat guy told us they weren't even sure if he was going to be on the NLDS roster before the last series. That's where they're at from a pitching perspective. What goes through your mind when you hear that, Matt?
Jose Quintana is going to shut down the Dodgers because he's the type of lefty that gives them so much trouble. I mean, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but yeah, on paper, yes, the upper hand clearly would go to the Dodgers offense. And as much as this team is different than the one we saw that kind of, trudged its way through the regular season with a bunch of not many peaks, I guess more valleys than high points. But how many times, are we on Twitter or doing these live shows and people are I can't believe this guy with a 5-something ERA.
Aaron Nola, just last series.
Yeah. So it looks to be advantageous to the Dodgers, but again, strange things happen. So I don't want to put too much stock in saying they're going to completely, just bulldoze the Brewers rotation. I think the Brewers are maybe, and I don't mean this as a slight to them, so hopefully it doesn't come across this way. The sum of their parts is where the strength is. And I think that they're good at, piecing things together and figuring out how to make their pitching staff work as opposed to, okay, this is our rotation and this is our bullpen. And then, let's figure it out from there.
Anthony, I have a couple more thoughts, but I want you to go first. Give me your thoughts on kind of how the Brewers rotation and their bullpen lines up.
I see them using a formula similar to, I want to say it was like the 14 and 15 Kansas City Royals, where you just try to get enough starting pitching, and then you turn it over, and with a close game or a tie game or I mean, God forbid, a lead to that bullpen. And that bullpen is not as good as the Royals one was. That Royals one was all time.
Soria and Wade Davis, and they had dudes.
Yeah, it was insane, but it's good enough that I think, if that's their formula, it could work.
Yeah.
It's I think the thing is, can you, over the course of a long series, can you count on the starters to keep getting them the ball with the lead or a tie game against this lineup? Because if this lineup starts to get right, like I said, I have some uneasiness about this series. I think this Brewers team is sneaky good, which is weird to say about a team who had the best record in baseball, but I think they get slept on a little bit and people sort of just brush the record under the rug maybe. But I do think that given where the rotation's at, that if the Dodgers offense can get rolling, this thing can be over quick.
Yeah. And I see some people in the chat saying, hey, that sounds like the 2024 Dodgers, where it's like they have one good pitcher and then a bunch of other shrug emojis and a good bullpen. This team is not good enough to just punt games in the NLCS like the Dodgers did, and then just come back and win.
Not have this offense that could slug.
Totally. So I think that's imagine the Dodgers team of last year with a above average offense, but not an elite one. And so that's one piece. And Matt, to your point, we've all seen that on social media, right? Like a crappy pitcher comes and it's almost you expect him to do have his career night against the Dodgers. But I do think it's worth saying out loud and being Captain Obvious here and saying I would still rather be facing these guys, Jose Quintana, than I would Christopher Sanchez. Sometimes it's oh, this guy's going to be awesome. It's what's the soft tossing lefty that the Cubs had forever? Kyle Hendricks or whatever. That guy just killed Zach Davies. Those guys killed the Dodgers. And yet, you know what? I want Zach Davies on the mound. That's the guy I want to face, not the ace of some staff. So I know it feels bad when you lose to those teams, but remind yourself that you still want that guy on the mound. That's where I'm at least.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, I'll just finish up the preview with some splits because I think these are interesting. How do they fare lefty versus righty? We're going to do a roster prediction a little bit later, and I think this is important information to continue to keep in mind, I should say. They have the third best ERA against left-handed hitters. They have the fifth best ERA against right-handed hitters. So again, not a huge difference there. And offensively, it's the same. They had the exact same weighted runs created plus 107 against lefties that they did against righties. So no major team-wide things. But then I dig in and say, okay, what's the individual stuff on the hitting side? And here's where it gets interesting. Against lefties, they've got some guys that mash. Andrew Vaughn, a guy that we haven't talked about, former top prospect, totally flamed out with the White Sox, comes over to the Brewers. He's been awesome. He destroys left-handed pitching. 202 weighted runs created plus against them. Chourio crushes lefties. Perkins is good. Terang is good. But there's two guys who struggle against lefties, Christian Yelich and William Contreras. Contreras has 20 points. His weighted runs created plus drops 20 against lefties compared to righties. Yelich's drops 51 points. He goes down to 87. So those are the two names when you think about all the Dodgers lefties in the bullpen. It's Contreras and it's Yelich are going to be the two names they're going to target. What's interesting is keep an eye on the
those
lineup.
are the guys that can slug.
Exactly.
You got other guys who can hit the ball out, but those are the guys who can hit it long.
Totally. And against lefties, against the Cubs, I don't know if they're going to continue doing this because it seemed to be the Cubs had openers, so it was hard to tell exactly what their read was. But 3 times, Contreras and Yelich batted third and fourth in the lineup, back-to-back with one another. So that could be a spot for a lefty. The flip side is Vaughn and Chourio, the two guys who kill lefties, were batting right in front and right after. So if you go to a lefty, they're going to have to face one of the righties that kill him. Here's what's interesting, though, about the Brewers. Let's flip that and say, how do these guys look against righties? Yelich crushes righties. Terang crushes righties. Contreras crushes righties. Vaughn, also good against righties. Vaughn's just a good hitter.
Vaughn's good.
But guys who struggle, Chourio, his weighted runs created plus drops 76 points. He's a 92 weighted runs created plus against righties. Bryce Perkins drops 59 points. And then Ortiz, their shortstop, he drops to 52 overall. So it's just interesting to me, Matt, when I look at this, because we just faced a team where it felt like you had some advantageous matchups with lefties, where it's like hey, basically other than two guys, everybody sucks against lefties. That's not the case with this Brewers group. There's two guys. It's their two best hitters, arguably, who stink against lefties. I shouldn't even say stink. They're below average against lefties because they're still decent. But it's actually righties where you're going to find a lot more advantageous matchups, I think, later in the game, which doesn't exactly line up great for the Dodgers bullpen as it's constructed.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that kind of ties it. We were discussing confidence in the bullpen and stuff like that, and needing, looking at different options the Dodgers are going to have to go to. And again, like, not to belabor the point, but also, like, the Brewers won as many games as they did for a reason, and they're here, at this point for a reason. It will be interesting to see how, the Dodgers are pretty deliberate with the matchups that they want to get and how they deploy their pitchers, especially once you get into the bullpen and things like that with the 3-batter minimum. And so seeing how they look to combat, maybe what the Brewers might do with their lineup is certainly going to be interesting. Dodgers don't do a ton of intentional walks, but maybe does that come into play at some point if, depending on the scenario, the inning, the situation, they get, do they just say, hey, rather than try to mess with this guy, let's just put him on base and try to get the people after him?
Yeah.
I mean, could go. It's going to be a good October theater, it sounds like, is coming our way.
Anthony, what's your take on hearing kind of the splits and how certain guys match up left versus right?
Yeah, I think Yelich and Contreras are going to see a steady diet there once we get into bullpens. On the other side, welcome back, Will Klein.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to that.
I mean, because I agree with Matt, right? Like, that's where, oddly enough, the Dodgers now lack potency is from the right side in the bullpen outside of Sasaki. Now,
Sheehan.
Sheehan's
probably the only guy near the top of the trust tree who's right-handed.
Correct.
I think the big hope trust tree, Jeff, because Anthony, because if it's Dave Roberts, Blake Treinen is up there as well, and you're going to be seeing a lot of him.
And that's where I was going next. Thank you, Matt. That's why you get paid the big bucks to boss us around. If Blake Treinen can get right a little bit, you're going to see a bunch of him late in games, and you're going to see him anyway. But I think in higher leverage, you're going to start to see more of him again because the Dodgers just don't have a ton of options there. And depending on how they decide to use Sheehan, is he strictly going to be for the most part a 3 or 4 out kind of guy? Or are they going to say, hey, man, can you go get us 6 outs, 7 outs, something like that? And I think his usage will sort of dictate how the rest of those right-handers get used throughout the series.
Yeah, because the problem with going and asking him to go get 6 outs is you're not going to see him for a couple of days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The good news, though, to all this, too, is Dave Roberts has told us repeatedly throughout the season that such and such reliever, I think Anthony Banda is one of them, that he's a neutral. They look at him as a neutral guy, not just a left on left. So the Dodgers
Which is insane.
The Dodgers
have Banda. He said that about because Banda's like the one guy that's murdered.
Maybe it was Vesia. Then I could be mistaken. But we do hear it from Dave Roberts about multiple relief pitchers of, hey, so and so is neutral. We trust him left or right. So that could be working in the Dodgers' favor.
I think you picked Banda as probably the only guy that I think that's not true of. I think Dreyer, Vesia, all those guys are probably.
Maybe I could say that. Yeah.
Banda gets killed by righties. It's like a 900 OPS or something like that. So let's get to some super chat. Oh, go ahead. What's that?
Mariners win game 1.
There you go. Go Pacific Northwest, baby. Real quick, Matt, your thoughts on that 15-inning game? Did you watch it?
Yes, I had it on. I don't know if I didn't catch. I don't remember at what point I tuned in, but I saw
I tuned in the 9th. I'm going to be honest.
I was in before that. I might have started 7th or 8th inning.
You enjoyed it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Anthony, are you on team enjoyed it or team Bill Plaschke?
Oh, I saw the Plaschke tweet.
Plaschke says we need the ghost runner in extra innings.
Everyone else on the timeline is like, this is fantastic.
Greatest game ever.
Bring it on. More popcorn. Let's get weird with it. And Plaschke's like, this is ridiculous.
This game sucks. And it's why we need the ghost runner in the postseason. I'm like, holy crap, is this a bad take? It's 2 bad takes in one. Unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I tuned in probably about the 5th inning, I think.
Good for you.
Yeah, that was a great game.
I had a buddy up here text me. It's the first start to finish baseball game he's watched in years. I'm like, that's 2 games. You watch 2 games start to finish, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. It did give me too many flashbacks of the 18-inning game that Max Muncy walked off, which ended up being a great memory but that they lost that World Series, and I don't like to think about it. So there was a little too much of that on my timeline. But other than that, that was a great game to watch.
Yeah, go Mariners. Let's get to some super chats, and then we're going to do pitching rotation and roster predictions. Raven Moreland asked, do we really need Dalton rushing now? We're going to get to this, and I'll tease the conversation by saying, do they need Dalton rushing? I think is related to, do they need a left-handed bat off the bench? And is there a different left-handed bat off the bench that they might want instead? So stay tuned. 300 says Ohtani and Freddie were a lot of
pissing him off.
1, 2, 3s. Laura says, we need the offense to get going to give the bullpen some low leverage inning. That we all agree on.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
David says it's the 30-year-olds versus the 20-year-olds. We all know 30-year-olds are going to win that one. So there you go. 300 says it means you have to get to their starters, get up on them, and you don't need to worry about the pen. See Johan Duran.
Yep.
And yeah, absolutely. Phil says it's playoff baseball. Anything can happen. Dodgers have the better team, so we have to like our chances. Really hope the offense gets going, though, and we take it to the Brewers from the start. Absolutely. It would be huge to go in there like they did in Philadelphia, and even if it's just winning one of the first two, but getting one of the road games would be nice. 300 adds. It was past Bill Plaschke's bedtime. The tweet was definitely sent past his bedtime. That is for sure. So, okay, let's talk pitching rotation, and then we'll talk roster prediction. The Dodgers announced today that Blake Snell will be pitching game 1. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be pitching game 2. If you've been watching our show or following me on social media, you know I was not surprised by this. I was rather pleased by it because after the NLDS, they announced that Dave Roberts came out and said, hey, it's probably going to be Ohtani in game 1, but we're not sure. Still a couple things to figure out, which, to be honest, I don't expect Dave Roberts right after they win game 4 of the NLDS to have a mapped out plan of the NLCS. I expect Andrew Friedman or Brandon Gomes to have that. I don't expect him to. So the fact that it's changed is not a surprise to me. Matt, Anthony and I have discussed this, and I'll let Anthony chime in just a second. But to me, Matt, this makes the most sense because when it comes to days off and guys being able to pitch on their normal rest, as a refresher, whoever pitched game 1 was going to get 4 days off and then be able to pitch game 5. Whoever pitched game 2 was going to get 5 days off and then be able to pitch game 6. And whoever pitches game 3 is going to get 4 days off before they have to pitch game number 7. Ohtani doesn't fit in any of those models. Since he has become a real starter and not like he was being built up, he has had 6 full days off between every start at least, and no less than 6. So to ask him to go on 5 or even 4 to me seemed like foolishness. That's why I'm not surprised by this. Of course, he might start game 3 and then we'll go from there. But were you surprised that in the end, they announced Snell and Yamamoto for 1 and 2?
Not overly surprised. A little surprised that Ohtani didn't get game 2. I think Snell taking the ball in game 1 was the most obvious. Like I felt like that was like basically as much as Dave, as you mentioned, said after game 4, like, yeah, like I think a lot of the times when he answers questions, it's more of he's being like you're like a courtroom, you're leading the witness, like, hey, so Ohtani was going to start on Saturday. Are you guys just pushing him back now to game 1 because that makes the most sense? Yeah, that sounds great. Like, yeah, I think so.
Dave does that.
Yeah, like if you lead him, like he won't disagree, and at that point, like he's not necessarily like quote unquote lying, if you will, but that's a separate thing. So Snell ending up with the game 1 start instead of Ohtani, like didn't surprise me. I thought maybe they would still go Ohtani in game 2, just from the standpoint of they have been trying to
get him a day
line up his pitching days with then a day off coming right after it to help him recover. And I sort of felt like he is already in an offensive slump. Like, do you want to do that? But then the other side to that coin was then if Yamamoto was not starting until game 3, then it like I think with his schedule, you're only then seeing him that one time in the series, right? Like
you'd have to. That was my problem. Is if you put Ohtani in game 2, Ohtani would have to come back on a 1 day less rest than he, or 2 days less rest, 1 day less rest than he is used to, and you would also be forcing Yamamoto to do the exact same thing between game 3 and game 7.
Yeah. So yeah, you just, and Dave Roberts said today basically like I don't want to say he let it slip, but he said like Ohtani was only starting once in this series. So that tells you, I know that you guys, I think, who was on with you that the last time?
Well, Anthony was at the end. It was Jeff Erickson to start,
right.
And then Anthony.
But it was you and Anthony. There were a lot of questions about how do you know that Ohtani won't start on 4 days rest and so on and so forth. And it turned out that how the Dodgers have handled him throughout the entire season sort of was a factor for what they're deciding right now. So yeah, not a whole ton of surprise ultimately with the way it's taken shape. What I'm more interested to see now is, where does Ohtani slot in? Is it the game 3? Is it a game 4? And that's what I'm curious to see.
Because if it's game 3, he would not be able to pitch game 7. And if Glasnow pitches game 4, he couldn't pitch game 7.
Right. But then the game 7 starter, that would end up just being Yamamoto, I think, right?
No, if Ohtani pitches game 3, they will have to have either a 5th starter or a bullpen game at some point.
Because 5 and 6 would be
Snell and Yamamoto.
That's right.
This has been my point all along. If Ohtani starts anywhere but game 4, either Kershaw is starting or you have a bullpen game. And Dave has said that they're not planning on either of those things. Again, whether you believe Dave or not. But to me, that's the math.
Well, then it's Glasnow game 3, because he could start the game 7 on the what are we referring it to as traditional rest. Yeah. So it'll be
Moreno levels of rest. Glasnow can start. Yamamoto will be starting on 2025 levels of rest, and then Ohtani will be starting on Ohtani levels of rest. But
basically,
Anthony, here's one way that I want to ask you this question. Does any of this have to do with Ohtani, the offensive player? Or do you think this is strictly about days of rest? Do you think there's any part of the Dodgers that said, hey, buddy, you're not pitching for a while. Go freaking get your stroke back?
I think it's an added benefit.
Okay. It's not the reason they did it, but it's definitely like, and if we do this, plus it might help. Kind of
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like if there was a sliver of like, should we, shouldn't we? I think that maybe tips the scale. But I think their thinking on this is, we have 4 legitimate frontline starters that we're shuffling here. They're all so good. It's not like you have 2 guys that are just head and shoulders way better than the rest of the rotation, and other guys who are like, fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not one of those situations. And so I think because Ohtani is not, let's say, even if you think Ohtani is the best pitcher of the group, he's not so much better than any of the other 3 that you're like, you just absolutely have to start him in one of the first 2 games.
We're gonna Ohtani twice is worth starting a bullpen game somewhere else in this series. Like
exactly, if that were the case, correct. So giving everyone their normal, comfortable rest that they've been so successful on during this stretch is of greater value than trying to jam in Ohtani somewhere earlier in the series. And then having to throw a bullpen game or punting a game later in the series.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out that without looking too far ahead, because I literally have no idea what the schedule is, this would also theoretically line Ohtani up to start game 1 of the World Series. So like the Dodgers are also thinking about winning the World Series. It's not just like, let's just plan everything to win the NLCS and figure the rest out later. Like this is a team that has aspirations beyond the series, Matt.
Yeah, real quick, I can just answer that. Game 1 of the World Series is on the 24th, so it would be 1 week from game 4 of the NLCS.
Interesting. 1 week exactly, you say. Interesting how those things line up. It also worth pointing out, game 3, we haven't mentioned the schedule yet. So if you have not seen the Dodgers postseason schedule, 508 games 1 and 2, which to me, that's awesome. I was expecting like a 208 start for these games that are going to be in Milwaukee, but we get 5:08 West Coast time, game 1 and game 2. Game 3 is a 3:08 Dodger Stadium game. We'll come back to this. 5:38 game 4 could be moved up a little if the ALCS is over with. 5:08 in game 5, 2:08 in game 6 would be moved back if the ALCS is not happening, and then 5:08 in game 7. The one that jumps out like a sore thumb, Anthony, is a 3:08 start game 3. We just had one of these game 4 against the Phillies. It's awful. You've got the shadows. Nobody can get to the game. The stadium is empty. Like it's a disaster from the Dodger Stadium perspective. The one silver lining in all of this is reportedly Tyler Glasnow loves throwing day games and pitched great at 3:08 a week ago. And I'm like, sign my guy up. Sign my guy up for that 3:08 start. Give him the shadows and we'll figure the rest out later.
Yeah. Pitchers love to pitch in that situation, right? With the shadows there at Dodger Stadium. And so that's not surprising that he's like, oh, another day game. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that bullet for you. But yeah, look, a Thursday game at 3:00 is just so dumb. And also this is your premier franchise. Like put them in prime time. And I know it's prime time on the East Coast, but like they're literally a California team.
Yeah.
Well, Brewers aren't even East Coast. They're central too. So
right,
they're
yeah.
not like, you're not catering to their audience.
Right.
It's
And
all the New
so-
York and Philadelphia people that are going to be tuning into the Dodgers and the Brewers, Matt?
Yeah, right. And I mean, like, to your point too about the traffic, like on a normal day with no sporting event going on in downtown LA, traffic around there is horrendous at 3:00. And now you're gonna ask 50,000 people to get to the stadium before first pitch. Like, it's just dumb.
This is it's reminiscent of 2018, and I remember because I was covering this series in person. Game 5 at Dodger Stadium of the NLCS, a Wednesday. I just double checked it. I remembered it was early. First pitch was at, oh, now I lost it, 2:05.
And that was against the Brewers, right?
It was against the Brewers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I remember thinking, like, I was at the stadium until like 11 or 12 the night before, and then needing to get back there basically, early. I should have just spent the night there. Maybe I'll do that this time.
Yeah, bring a cut.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. Rapid fire. Matt, Yamamoto, we mentioned it. 2/3 of an inning, 9 batters faced, 5 runs, 3 of them earned against the Brewers this year. He also struggled mightily stretch. He struggled the most of any Dodger starter in the NLDS. Does that worry you, or you throw that all out and say Yamamoto's an ace, not worried?
Not worried. He's set up perfectly for a bounce back start. We saw the same thing last year in the NLDS. He struggled against the Padres. His next time out, he was lights out.
Anthony?
Yeah, not worried about that at all. And also that start against the Phillies was like not great, but like it wasn't terrible. Like I think he was 1 out away from essentially matching what Christopher Sanchez ended up having as a final line, or it was close to it, something like that. Not worried. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, well, and we'll see who he has catching him, because I've been told that one of those two guys takes 3 earned runs off of your record when you get to throw to him. So that's all right. I can't help myself, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's get to a couple super chats, roster predictions back to back. Anthony, this is for you. Why does the Pancake Man downplay his team so much? They're just average Joes. Man, it's such a great franchise over there. We just love them. They're just so good. They spend so much money. They're so good. We're just a bunch of guys over here just enjoying. Happy to be here. Anthony, why does he do this? I hate it.
This reaction from me that you're seeing is not for the downplay. It's, you just reminded me of Pocket Pancakes, and that we're going to have to go through an entire series of hearing about it from national broadcasters.
I was going to say there's a couple Dodger head people, I won't name names, that were not big fans of the Pocket Pancakes and were skeptical of the Brewers being a real team. So this series is built for it. That's all I'm saying.
It is. Look, for Pat Murphy doing this, it's par for the course for like every manager.
And
I saw somebody that posted that Doc did it last year, going into the postseason with the 98 win team. Every manager tries to find a way to do this. For the Brewers, I think it actually has some tackiness to it. I think it's a little sticky because they're a team that's not really in any national spotlight. They don't have any real superstars. The closest thing that they had to it for an hour was the Miz, and then he kind of fell off in terms of like how good he was over the course of the rest of the season. But I think it's a little easier for them to do that. And then they have the built-in narrative of like, we're a small market team and we're playing this $1 billion Dodgers payroll. Which is such a hacky storyline, but from like a manager's perspective, like, they're going to use it.
Right. Yeah. He's just blowing smoke at the Dodgers. Crazy.
And Dave Roberts ended his press conference today saying he kind of equated Pat Murphy's comments to, like he said, in the Lou Holtz vein. He said, don't buy any of it. Like they're a very good team. And we know that. So, and he wasn't mad. Like Dave Roberts wasn't mad when he was saying, he was just saying like, hey, like, don't listen to what Pat Murphy's trying to throw out there. Like they're a good team.
I liked Snell's quote on it when he was asked about it, and he was just like, I'm not buying that average Joe stuff. Like, this team's legitimately good. Like, I thought his answer was both like just dismissive enough of what Pat Murphy was doing, but like complimentary enough that it like came off as genuine.
Yeah. Jedi Engineer said Anthony didn't want the 2022 18-inning game the Mariners did again. Loved the game. LOL that the second running of the salmon, their mid-inning gag. That was pretty awesome.
That's great. The salmon race is fantastic. And like the second one, I missed the first one. But like the second one, I don't know if this is a normal thing, but they're like all the salmon are like fighting each other as they run around the warning track. I don't know if that's what they normally do, but I got a good laugh out of that.
Yeah, poor interns had to go run another 400, you know. Phil says not a big Plashke guy. So there you go. We appreciate the super chat, Phil. And
Well,
there's
we'll
some
see.
people that agree with you.
I do want to say, like, I understand Plashke's polarizing, but he is going through like some personal stuff. So like, I just hope people watching this show, I did see some comments like, keep that in mind. Like, we do wish Bill Plashke well with his Parkinson's battle.
He's announced it too. He's made it public. Plash is actually a really good guy. Like, his takes are, you know, maybe we don't agree with them all the time, but Bill is a really nice guy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk.
Speaking of, real quick, we talked about the salmon race, and so this is relevant right now because I think we're going to see a whole bunch of it maybe this series. But I was able to run the sausage race twice at the old Miller Park.
Wow, did you ever go down the slide?
Yeah, I did go down the slide. I did not break anything.
Better than Vassay?
I did not break anything.
Jeff, your guy Steven Nelson posted a video. He went down it too. Like, I didn't realize.
That's what my wife told me. She goes, "Oh, Steven posted a video of him going down it." I was like, "Well, was it a video of Vassay just breaking his arm?"
That's what I thought it was at first.
Fabian retweeted that and was like, just a friendly reminder of like whatever. So she was like, "No, it was him."
Yeah,
so.
I thought it was an older video, but I thought the same thing. Like, oh, he's just sharing Vassay's in, but it ended up being him. But I'm also disappointed that this is the first we're hearing about this from Anthony.
Yeah,
it's never. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's never really come up. The very first time
who gets to run it? Like, how did you get to run it?
Normally, it's just like employees.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I think we were having a conversation. We were sitting in the dugout one day pregame, like just, you know, talking mess to each other, the beat writers and the PR team and stuff. And someone said something about it, and I think I said, like, you know, does everyone run full speed in those? Like, do they try to win it, or is it just like, you know, hey, we're jogging and we'll figure it out? And somebody was like, oh, I've done it before. Like, it's hard to run full speed in those things. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Because if it was like just a straight up foot race, like, I would win that thing every day. And then, of course, that there was like, you're in this tomorrow. And so I was like, all right, fine. And I went down there. And they tried to give me, like, I don't know, it was like the bratwurst or something. And I was like, hold on. The chorizo, or I'm walking back up to the press box. So then the second time I did it, like, they had the chorizo was ready. Like, that's who I was going to be.
Did you win?
The first one, I did not win. I came in second. It was like a photo finish. And those things are super hard to run into. They're like really top heavy. And like, if you try to get after it, like, you will topple. So you have to kind of like lean back and kind of run. And it's a whole thing. So then the second time, which was like the next season or maybe the season after that, I was prepared and I won going away.
He spent the 2 years training. He got his own mascot suit at home and went running in Milwaukee. He was ready.
I did a Rocky montage.
That's great. Speaking of my guy Nelson, the clip of him and Rick Monday on the final out is just pure gold. And I'm like,
a lot of those are very good.
I was like, where my guy Monday? Just no reaction whatsoever to the moment. Like, it's just like he just saw a fly out in the seventh inning of a game in June or something like that. Unbelievable. Nelson's losing his mind, and Monday's staring at him like, why are you so excited about this? I don't know. Just cracked me up. So. And then he posted a pretty funny text exchange with Rick Monday afterwards, where he basically said, what were you thinking? And his response was, call security or something like that was what Rick Monday was thinking of Steven Nelson. So there you go. Ivan Gutierrez wants to clarify, don't claim the other Ivan. Ohtani is a great pitcher. So there we go. We've got.
I'm glad we've gotten some of these clarifications. There's manuals that have been fighting in here and stuff like that. So people take the name stuff pretty seriously.
It's true. Okay, let's talk NLCS roster predictions here. And there are reports that the Dodgers are likely going to add an additional pitcher. They have carried 11 pitchers plus Ohtani. They are technically allowed 13 pitchers plus Ohtani if they would like. Everybody else is allowed 13 pitchers total. This is the Ohtani rule, the advantage of it. And so let's go through kind of the different classes of people. And I'll start on the offensive side of things. I've got 11 people who are locks, and I have 2 people who are semi-locks on the offensive side of thing. And then I think there's a 3-way race for one spot. So the locks, you guys tell me if I'm wrong here. Smith, Freeman, Edman. I'm going around the diamond is how I wrote this. Smith, Freeman, Edman, Mookie, Muncy, Kike, Pages, Teo, Rojas, Ohtani, and I've got Ben Rortvedt as a lock. Matt, any of those 11 that you have any issue with?
No, I would have
Anthony?
those on my list as well.
I don't have an issue with them, but I have a question on, and I know we'll get here, so I'll try to say I have a question about Rortvet, which
Okay.
we can address.
So I've got semi-locks, Alex Call and Justin Dean. I just think if Alex Call starts 2 games in the NLDS and Justin Dean is a defensive replacement in every single game, to me, Matt, these guys are going to be on the roster. Do you have any disagreement with these two?
Not a ton, but if one is coming off, it wouldn't shock me if it, like, I felt like Call was on for the Christopher Sanchez matchup, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, like the additional lefties that the Phillies were throwing at the Dodgers. So I'm not as confident in him for this one, but I think the Dodgers like what he brings to the table, and so like I think some of that would outweigh like the alternative options.
Anthony?
I think the weight is more on Call and Dean being on the roster, and potentially Kim maybe being the odd man out here.
Okay. So that brings me to, so if we get to those, we've got 13. And again, it seems likely, or at least possible, they're going to carry 14 position players because Ohtani counts in that 14. And so the last spot, if there is one more spot, the last spot would be down to Ha-Seong Kim, who is on the roster, Dalton Rushing, who is on the roster. So this would be them taking one less. And just going to throw another name out here. A gentleman by the name of Michael Conforto, I think, is at least in the conversation. And I say this because the Phillies were an atrocious matchup for Conforto as a lefty. And as much as the people in the chat are going to deny it, there were people in the chat that were calling for Conforto because the Dodgers had no answers when it came to lefties off of the bench. And I'm not saying Conforto's good. I'm just saying it's worth talking out here. And so I've got one spot for Kim, for Rushing if they choose to go third catcher, or if they like Rushing as the left-handed bat off the bench, or Michael Conforto. The chat's fired up. The chat loves Conforto. It's just like all I see is I love Conforto. Can't believe he's not a lock. Love it. Absolutely correct. So kudos to the chat. They're on Team Conforto here, Matt. If I gave you Kim, Rushing, or Conforto, how would you play this out? Or you could take 2 extra pitchers and cut all 3 of these guys.
Yeah, that's where I'm sort of going. I think they need 2 relief pitchers, just one for you're going to be playing the 3 days in a row, and having the extra reliever helps with that. And you only have the travel off days now. 2, you don't know what you're getting out of your bullpen, it seems like, almost on any given night. And so you need as many options as you can get. With all of that, I would take off Call and, well, yeah, I'm not sure actually. Because then if you add 2 pitchers, then Rushing.
Then if you take Call out, then you would still need to take one of Rushing or Kim off the roster to get to 2 more relievers.
I'm reluctant. I would say Ha-Seong Kim because I think his biggest value per se is like Justin Dean can also be a pinch runner.
Yeah.
My concern is Tommy Edman's ankle. Like I feel like could kind of go at any second, if you will. Now it was I saw that
He'd
play
be replaceable then though.
Yeah,
but then he's out for the
World. But he's out for the World
Series.
So it just depends on like if it's so. I think if it's so bad that he can't actually play, he's probably done anyway.
That's fair. That's fair. So I get like getting to the 2 relievers is kind of difficult, but I do think that they would stand to benefit from figuring out a way to do 2. And for me, I would make that decision. I would get there by. I don't think you need Call and Dean on this roster, so I would take probably Call off. It seems like they like Justin Dean, whether a little bit more with his speed and defensive abilities. I would definitely take Rushing over Conforto if it comes to that type of decision. And I could be talked into Ha-Seong Kim being the second player that comes off because, like I said, Dean is your defensive or your pinch runner, and Kike can come into the infield if you need it, that type of stuff.
Okay, Anthony, how would you play out this kind of, because Matt's taking 2 of these guys off and opening up 2 spots. But if you want to open 1 spot, then you've got to pick one of Kim, Rushing, or Conforto.
I think if they kept Rushing, like he's almost not even a catcher at that point. And
he's basically just it's Rushing versus. I was talking with somebody who's, I would say, knows more than I do, and their response was, one of the questions is like, do you want Rushing or Conforto as the left-handed bat off the bench?
Yes. I think you could potentially have both of those guys
Well, here we go.
if you take Rortvet off. And the only way that I think that would happen is if they were confident that Will Smith is just going to catch now.
If he's starting 7 games,
Which I
rushing
think
over
that they
7
are.
games.
I do think
No.
that they are. I think that they're at that point with Smith.
If they think that, then I don't know exactly what value Rortvet brings.
Bunting.
And sure, better at knocking balls down.
I'm not joking about that, by the way. Like, if they needed somebody to come out and lay out a bunt, I don't know who else I would trust more than him.
Sure. And it may come down to that. We'll see. It helped them against the Phillies in those first couple of games. So you could get around this a little bit in that way. Let's say Rortvet's on the roster. We'll stick with that premise for now. Because I think that's fine.
People are going to go hang their pitchforks back up in their houses real quick and wait to hear the rest of your sentence.
I'm just look, these are just options. They're options that are on the table. I would say, look, I was a fan in the NLDS of having Call, Dean, and Kim, because I think that they all serve unique purposes, even though their skill sets sort of match up.
Yeah.
Dean's the only guy who can come in as a defensive center fielder right now.
And he did make a great catch. So at least we can stop having the is he actually good at defense conversation.
Yeah. We hopefully some people are already not stopping that tonight. And I think also, especially in a longer series, and we saw this in the clinching game against the Phillies, there can be more than one situation in one baseball game where you're like, we could really use a fast pinch runner right here.
Yeah.
And so we saw
preferably one who doesn't miss home plate the first time they run past.
We saw Dean and Kim enter for those exact purposes. Yeah. So I would be fine if all 3 of those guys stayed, which then brings us to your question, Jeff. I think I'm probably more comfortable with Conforto at this point than rushing.
Okay. And
as that guy off the bench to give you a good at bat.
Okay. So then you've got to choose between Conforto and Kim, though, if you want to add a pitcher. Because if Rushing comes off, his spot's going to a pitcher, and then you've got Conforto versus Kim for the last bench spot, assuming you have Call and Dean on.
Yeah. Then I'm probably keeping
Anthony.
I think I'm probably keeping Kim.
You were so close. I had to give you the logistics. Okay, You're going with Kim. Let's move to pitching, and then we'll talk this through. Locks, I've got 9. Snell, Yamamoto. Ohtani's not counted in here, by the way. Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Sasaki, Vesia, Sheehan, Trinan, Bonda, and Dreyer are locks to me. Any of those 9 that any of you would dispute. You may add more to this list, but are any of those 9 names up for debate? Bonda would be the only one that wasn't on the wild card roster. All the other 8 guys have been on every roster so far. Matt, you good with all 9?
You didn't say Kershaw, right?
We haven't gotten to him yet.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think so.
Anthony, any of those 9, 8 guys that have been on every roster plus Bonda.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, you did not say Scott, right? You left Scott's off.
Tanner Scott's unavailable.
Yeah. I think I'm fine with that.
Okay. I have Kershaw as a semi-lock here. I can understand why there's going to be people frustrated. To me, I would be very surprised if he's not on this roster. Anthony, do you think Kershaw's a semi-lock to be on this roster?
Man, yes. I'll say yes.
You think he is a semi-lock?
I think so. I think his role starts to change now based on that last outing just a little bit. Whereas before I was like, I don't think that he would be sort of like a mop-up kind of guy.
Yeah.
I think now they could use him in that way, up or down.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, Kershaw, semi-lock?
I think so. That's the best way to describe it, because I know Dave Roberts, when he was discussing Kershaw, he prefaced or couched his comment with, we're not sure, something effective like we're not sure, alluding to the fact that it seemed like we're not sure if he's going to be on the roster, which sort of surprised. I don't know why. He didn't flat out say we're not sure about the roster, but definitely left the door open of, hey, we're evaluating things type thing. And that just surprised me from a standpoint of they telegraph, they said in the wild card round, yes, we didn't need him now. If we get to the NLDS, he's definitely on.
Yeah.
So to now sort of
Then they only used them once, right?
yeah. So to now to kind of open that
Save,
door,
save the series though, Anthony. Ate that eighth inning, baby, and paved the way for Game 4. Never forget.
Some people are saying he saved it.
To mention it that way sort of loosely suggests like we're thinking about things like that. Caught me by surprise. So that's the only reason why I'm not sure if he'll be on it. But again, like I still think that they do trust him over, a lot of the different, potential backup options that we're going to get to.
So at this point, I've got a list of 7 players that Anthony and I have to choose 2 from. Matt, because he took a position player off and went no to Rushing, no to Kim, and no to Conforto, he can pick 3 off of this list for his group. And this group is Robleski, Kasparius, Klein, Yates, Hurt, Enriquez, and Kopech in no particular order. I'll talk through each of these names and then I'll allow people to add. Robleski is not a semi-lock to me, even though he was the first guy that took Tanner Scott's spot. He's not a full-on lock for me simply because the lefty matchups in this series just don't exist. And he's probably one of these neutral guys, and he's probably a guy that you look up and down the list and say, I don't care if he throws with both hands, one hand, or either hand, he's better than the rest of these guys. And so we'll just take him. But that's why I think he's on this list. Then you've got Ben Kasparius, who has been staying warm, who has been around the team. I was texting with Matt. I believe he was throwing live batting practice before the NLDS to the team. And so
during it, that was, I mentioned that was their
during off day.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe he was before too, because it was one of those where he threw it like the day before Game 1, and it was like, hey, he's clearly not going to be on the roster if he's throwing live BP beforehand. You've got Klein, who is now officially eligible to come back from having been sent down. You've got Kirby Yates, who was playing the same role as Ben Kasparius. Kyle Hurt, who's been in no man's land. Enriquez, who was on one roster, looked terrible, and then lost his spot. And then Kopech, who is technically pitching, as some people can attest, maybe not well. So Robleski, Kasparius, Klein, Yates, Hurt, Enriquez, and Kopech. Anthony, I'll start with you first. You get to pick 2 from that list. Again, I'll read it one more time. Robleski, Kasparius, Klein, Yates, Hurt, Enriquez, and Kopech. Which 2 do you want?
I think I'm going Robo and Klein.
Okay. Robo and Klein are your choices.
Yeah, I think Robo because he can give them more than 3 outs.
Yeah.
And I think Klein because I think they need a righty in that mix somewhere.
Yeah.
And he at least looked good late. And he's had his own command issues, but the last time we saw him, he looked fine. Enriquez, I just do not trust it. I do not trust that he can come in and throw strikes.
Yeah. Okay. Which is a big deal against this Brewers team. I mean, I think that's like one of the deciding factors is this has to be a person you trust to throw strikes against a team that will watch. Matt, you get 3 choices. I'm guessing Robleski is in your group of 3. Is that safe?
Yes, he's in it. I think Enrique. So I will say you preface it to Anthony with who do you want? So and I think that's loose language here with as Daniel would say, no disrespect to these guys, but I mean, we've seen them struggle. Who I think it would end up being, I think Robleski, and again, this is with them taking 2 extra relievers, not just. I think Enriquez gets back on it because he was active most recently.
They clearly trusted him going into the wild card. Now he looked really bad, but that was one outing.
And I think
Klein or Kasparius.
I think Kasparius. I think his history last year, and he was good this season before they needed to start yo-yoing his role because the rotation was running out of options and this and that. So, I think he gets back on. It wouldn't shock. I'm most confident in Robleski, Kasparius. I think Enriquez, Klein, that could be flip-flopped either way.
Yeah, I'm going Robleski.
They carry both of those guys.
Yeah. I had Robleski off because of the matchups and because of how many lefties. And you could, I wanted to put Kasparius and Klein as my 2 guys because they're both righties. I think they're both going to be helpful in this series. And I just don't see a world where Robleski gets used. It feels like Robleski, Kershaw, they're very different pitchers, but they're kind of like maybe doing the same thing on this roster to some degree.
Sure.
But I'm going to go Wroblewski. I'm going to go Kasparius. And to all of your chagrin, I'm taking Michael Conforto over Ha-Seong Kim for the last spot on my roster. I just think the matchup is going to be good. And I just think they saw enough times where they didn't have a bat that was left-handed that they could go to, whether it was for Andy Pages, whether it was for, fill in the blank, whoever it was going to be. And so I just could see a world where it's going to be him. And you can hate me for it. That's fine. But I think that's an option. And I would take him over rushing from the left-handed side. I don't think they need 3 catchers. And if they think Will Smith can catch 7 times, I would probably take rushing over Rortvedt, but people already knew that and people already hate me for that take. So we're just going to set that one aside. So
I will say, like, the rushing Rortvedt thing, like rushing he hasn't gotten into any, like, he hasn't gotten into any
He hasn't
game
played at all. But they had 3 catchers.
Yeah.
But
and
I think,
Rortvedt hasn't pinch hit would be the counter. Like in games that Rortvedt hasn't started, he hasn't played either.
That's fair. But they weren't going to rushing to start those games. Like, rushing was available.
Oh, trust me.
I think we said it going into the postseason that rushing was always going to be a number 2, whether it was Will starting or whether it was Rortvedt starting. There was no situation where I think any of us thought that rushing would be the starter. If one of those other 2 guys was out, rushing was always number 2 behind one of those guys. Now, I did say that if Will Smith was healthy, I thought rushing was the number 2 and Rortvedt was off.
Yeah.
I don't know that they'll do that, but to my point earlier, if Will Smith is going to catch 7 games, I don't really know where Rortvedt's role is, because I don't think they bring him in as a defensive replacement at catcher.
And you're never pinch hitting for Will Smith either.
And you're never using Rortvedt to pinch hit. You can say, like, maybe to put a bunt down, but I think Ha-Seong Kim has shown that he can do that too. Like, he hasn't done it in a while, but when they asked him to do it before Rortvedt was a thing, he could do it.
Well, and I also think it's worth pointing out, Rortvedt's the only time they've ever asked anybody to put a bunt down. So I think with like 80% of this lineup, they're like, we'll just take the swing. Thank you very much. So it's not like, hey, Will Smith, take a seat. We need somebody to lay down a bunt. So we're going to go get Rortvedt for this spot. So we'll see. Oh, I love this. GI. I hope this
GI is speaking to you.
Conforto versus current Brewers pitchers, 289, 341, 500/line, baby. There you go. You go.
He's on the team.
There you go. Sign me up. So just hey, I just thought it was interesting. This person, I have no inside information that Conforto is going to make it, but I think we all at some point were like, man, it would be nice to have a left-handed bat that could come off of the bench and actually put a swing on it. Like, how many times did Pages come up and we all screamed for a pinch hitter? I'm not saying anybody's going to be screaming for Conforto to be that guy.
I also don't know in those situations if they're doing that anyway, because there was a couple of situations where, like, he could have hit Max. And they didn't.
Well,
so
that one he saved him. It was because Max was his only guy. Like, Max was the only bullet that he could fire. And again, I'm not saying Conforto's a bullet that you want to be fired, but I remember thinking at one point, why is he not hitting Max here? And it was because he already had pigeonholed another spot. It's because they didn't want Justin Dean hitting the next inning of game 4. So it's tough. Keep in mind that when Conforto is bad to clean up, the Dodgers have never lost. So I'm just, that still exists and will probably exist for eternity, because I don't think he's batting cleanup at any point the rest of the season, and he's never playing for the Dodgers again after this season. So we've got that going for us. So, all right, let's get to some questions. All caps questions. Throw those in the chat. We've got some super chats in here. D Nation Life says, I'm nervous. A lot of talking heads are treating this series as a given. I think it's trickier than they expect. Thoughts? Let's get to some predictions. We haven't made predictions yet. I'm nervous. A lot of talking heads are treating as a given. I think it's trickier. Here's what I would say. This team, two reasons make me confident. This team is not as good as the Phillies. I believe that fully. And the second thing is, the longer a series is, the greater the likelihood the better team wins. And the Dodgers are going to be the better team in every matchup that they face. So the fact that it is a 7-game series and the fact that it is against a lesser team than the Phillies, although I think this team's better than the Reds, but I think they're in between those two teams. That's why I am confident. And I'm not usually overconfident. And Dodgers in 6 feels like it's just the betting favorite sitting there on a platter. Dodgers are minus 200 to win this series. 5.5, 6.5 is right where the over-under is for games. It's like minus 160 to go over 5.5, and it's like minus 3 something to go under 6.5. But I go back and forth between Dodgers in 5 and Dodgers in 6, to be perfectly honest with you. And for the sake of mixing it up, I'm going to say Dodgers in 5. That's my prediction. Anthony, we'll let you go second. Matt, you can bat third on this. And Anthony, if you want Dodgers in 5, I'll happily take Dodgers in 6 before Matt says Brewers in 4. So whatever you want to do here.
No, you took your swing. That's all good. And I see there is a world that's not too far off from any where I think that's a possibility, Jeff. So I don't think that's like a wild take. Here's why the Brewers concern me is because I do believe that the Phillies are better. I think the Phillies are a tougher matchup than the Brewers are for this team. The one thing that sort of makes me pause here is that the Phillies are very reliant on power, just like the Dodgers have been.
Yeah.
And we saw both of those teams just not be able to put things together. And it's like an inning here, an inning there. And that's kind of how most of those, it's how almost every game was decided, essentially. The Brewers scare me because they can score without doing some of those things. They don't rely on it, I should say. Like, you're probably going to see some more sacrifice bunting from the Brewers than you did, in the first 2 series. It's things like that. And if this is only a concern if the offense continues to struggle. If the offense wakes up, the Dodgers can win this in 4. I think the advantage top to bottom is that much better when you look at the regular lineup and the 4-man rotation. I'm not confident that it's going to get going like that. I think earlier my number was a 6 for the offense. So with all of that said, again, Dodgers still the better team. I think they win it in 6. There might be a game here or there where they just don't hit and the Brewers do enough to win a couple of times. I could see that happening. So I think Brewers in 6, but I think it's it's a situation like what the Mets series looked like last year.
You said Dodgers in 6 or Brewers in 6? You said one time each way.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Dodgers in 6.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Sorry.
We'll clip out where you said Brewers in 6, and that'll post all over social media. So.
I think it's a situation that with what like the Mets series looked like last year. That went 6, but it was pretty clear to everybody that the Dodgers were the better club.
Yeah, and that was with punting a game too.
And
Matt, what do you got here? Brewers in.
Yeah, I know people. People
JF
are.
Smith. Matt picked the Brewers.
Matt, you're here to provide balance, right? That's what I always hear.
I am here to provide balance when I feel like maybe we are leaning too one-sided. I will say though, you guys are saying that the Brewers aren't as good as the Phillies, but they had a better record than the Phillies did this season. So they clearly were better than the Phillies were.
Clearly. The Phillies had a better record than the Dodgers too. You're going to have to go rewind the tape on that one.
I mean, the Dodgers are just, they're the underdogs right now is how I'm looking at this playoffs. And they're the little engine that could right now. They're still chugging along. Jeff, I hate to disappoint you. I thought I was going to be on a little bit on an island. I think Dodgers in 5.
Okay, I like it.
Realistically, because it's baseball, it'll be Dodgers in 6.
Okay, so what are you picking?
Yeah, Dodgers.
Jeez, this guy. 300 says it's been so long since Conforto played. He might think it's next year and actually start to hit a bit. See, now we're getting to it.
Yeah, that's positive.
300 also says the smart baseball move is Robleski, Klein, and Kasperius with Kershaw off, but I don't think the Dodgers will do that to Kershaw. Yeah, it's possible.
I don't disagree with that take.
Yeah, again, you could convince me. You could convince me easily. It's mostly just I don't think they would do that to Kershaw type of a situation. So, and again, I think Kershaw is the break glass in case of emergency guy. He's not there to like shut down an inning, but neither here nor there. Jay Teaser, who is your key to the series for the Dodgers? Who's the Dodgers player that you think is a barometer? If this player plays well, they will win. And if this player plays poorly, they will likely lose. And you're not allowed to say Shohei Ohtani. Neither of you are allowed to say Shohei Ohtani. Okay. So sorry, Matt. I just took the answer right out of your mouth.
You did. Am I first?
I'll go first. I am going to say it's Yamamoto because I think Snell's going to shove. And I think if Yamamoto is pitching game 2 and a potential game 6, given his history in the NLDS, given his history against the Brewers, I think he needs to pitch like the guy that he is. Like, I think he's going to pitch. And if Yamamoto gives them, 6 2/3 and 1 or 2 earned runs or something like that, I think I just don't see a lot of places where the Brewers are going to come out victorious. So Yamamoto's also squaring up with Peralta, who is their ace. So if the Dodgers can win game 2 in Milwaukee against their best pitcher, I don't know how you scratch out 4 wins if you're the Brewers. So I'm going to go Yamamoto.
Yep.
Matt?
I'll do Will Smith.
There we go.
Oh,
Offensively,
nice.
offensively, I think if he hits kind of, to the level of expectations type thing, and hopefully his Anthony, I know like you and I both said, like, we don't know as much as he's like healthy enough to be playing. We don't know how much strength is really in that hand type thing to be hitting. So if he can give them something offensively, I think that'll be a huge boost for the lineup.
Yeah, game changer. Yeah.
Anthony?
I'm going to say Teo. He was my guy against the Phillies, and I think
Defensively or offensively?
Well, look,
they're connected.
Every time he messes up defensively, he comes through offensively. So, and makes up for it. So, look, I think that he was my guy in the Philly series, and we saw why. I think in those first 2 games in Philadelphia, I think for this series too, he is that guy because if he can slug, he douses some of the fire that the lefty matchup can put on Ohtani. Because let's say he's leading off an inning or whatever, and they're gonna hit him third in some of these games where maybe a lefty starts or they're worried about what the bullpen looks like, whatever the case may be. He can start to really make them think of, boy, but then this guy has to face Mookie and Teo.
Yeah.
And that might not be so smart. So I think he's the kind of guy where if he's hitting the ball hard, he can change the complexion of this lineup and potentially the complexion of the series.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think the move where against lefties, they kept Teo in that 3 spot. Man, there were a lot of spots where Teo was coming up in a big moment. And so with a bunch of righties, I think Freddie's going to be back in that spot. And he's the guy that seems to kill every NLCS he's ever been in. So keep an eye on Freddie, which is maybe Vinny's question. Pick for NLCS MVP. I don't think a pitcher is going to win NLCS MVP. So I could go a different direction here. And you guys pick not like who you thought the best player was going to be, but who is the key to the series. So obviously Tommy Edman famously won this award last year, a little bit of an out of nowhere type player. Who wants to go first? Anthony, you want to pick an NLCS MVP first?
Yeah. I'll go first. I am going not an out of nowhere guy on this one. Okay. I'm going to go traditional blue blood, first ballot type of guy. I'm going to say Mookie.
Okay. That wasn't the blue blood I thought you were going to say there, but it's a fair one. Okay. Led the Dodgers in OPS last year in the postseason, as we've pointed out multiple times. Matt, who you got?
First of all, Jeff, I hope you're reading the comments. We're going to have to put them.
Oh, you see, I'm watching them
answering this. Sorry, that was what my my laugh was, kind of out of nowhere. I'm going with Ohtani. That's who I thought Anthony was going to lead with, because I think Ohtani wakes up at the plate and you're going to get a pitching start mixed in, and so I think that'll be so his fingerprints kind of all over the series.
That's a good point, Matt. I forgot about the pitching side of it because I'm with you. I think he starts to wake up here. I think. I either said it on this stream or Jeff earlier when we had Todd on. But I think this is a decent, like, get right kind of series for some of these guys. I think Ohtani is the number 1 guy on that list.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, this was put on a tee for you. Keektober was sitting right there, just disrespectful.
Well, I think, like I said, I think Ohtani, he'll do a little too much, and it'll be co-MVPs then.
Okay. Give me Freddie Freeman. Like, I'll never forget the 2020 NLCS against Freddie Freeman. And it was like him and Corey Seager. It felt like, why bother pitching to them? It's just going to be a home run or a double off the wall every single time those guys come up. If you gave me Conforto 24 at bats in this series, we might have a conversation, but I don't think anybody's giving me that. So, Matt, this one's for you. What about Kopech? High velo righty might play up if his medicals have improved. Rumors are that medicals have improved, Matt. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know how healthy he is. I can tell you that I am among a select group of people that was fortunate enough to get some eyes on a Michael Kopech pitching exercise.
A live BP. There was Edmund. It looked like Edmund standing in the box. Maybe
I don't think it was Edmund. I forgot. I'd have to go back and look who the hitters were.
Would they risk a real player in the box against Kopech? Right?
No, not Kopech. But I mean, who was taking at bats? Like Kim was taking at bats that night. I think even rushing. Dodgers they ended up using like 5 pitchers.
It might have been rushing. It was definitely a lefty.
5 pitchers were scheduled to pitch an inning that night. One fell markedly short of that. It may or may not have been Michael Kopech. And from what I saw, I don't think he's anywhere close to being under consideration.
There you go. Okay. TQT, Anthony, called the Brewers overrated during the regular season. Seems like he's giving them some more credit now. Why the change?
Yeah, I answered this for TQT in the chat. I always said that their offense was smoke and mirrors, and I'm not backed off of that. Their pitching, I have always said this season and today that their pitching has been legit. Now their pitching has gotten washed out a little bit, I think, now with some of the injuries and things like that. Like I do not think it's as deep as it once was earlier in the season. And again, I don't think that they slug quite enough. That's not to say that they don't slug at all. They don't do it quite enough.
Yeah.
And I think they're facing really elite starting pitching now. And so to rely on like stringing hits together or maybe giving an out away with the sacrifice bunt, that kind of stuff against this kind of competition, I don't think that formula works.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was saying. Like I still stand by like what I think this offense is, especially when it faces really quality pitching. And their pitching, I think, is a little bit more diminished than it had been during the regular season. I just think that they give me a little bit of pause because of where the Dodgers offense has been.
Yeah.
Basically, Anthony's saying they're built for the regular season, not for October. That's it. End of discussion.
And he picked the Dodgers in 6. So
Next question.
300 says even Charlie Sheen says Kopech is wild. There you go. It's fair. Ricardo wants to point out that Matt is officially on the Dodgers bandwagon, so it's nice to have you, Matt.
I will say this. Jeff knew, because we talked about this earlier, that I was like, yeah, I think the Dodgers win this series. But like I said a second ago, like the Brewers give me a little bit of like, you guys are talking me back to the quick series side of things. I think I feel better than I did coming into tonight's stream.
Let me ask you this, Anthony. Is this team closer to the Phillies or the Reds?
They're closer to the Phillies.
Okay. Matt,
the Reds were like, 2 wins away from, 2 less wins from being a 500 club. Snuck in because the Mets had a total complete meltdown. The Brewers are closer to the Phillies, but they're not as good as the Phillies. And the Dodgers beat that team in 4.
Yeah. Nomo says the only Brewer I fear is the spirit of Bob Uecker. It does feel like this is the thing, honestly, the thing that worries me the most about the Brewers is just the vibes. Like it just feels like a team of destiny. It's the team of destiny crap that's the stuff that scares me. It's not the players.
That might be where I'm at too. Like there's like something about it where it's like, I really would have rather played the Cubs.
Yeah. See, and I
the Cubs were not a team of destiny.
About the Cubs, but yeah, to your point, there were no vibes issues there. So
yeah, no pocket pancakes happening in Wrigley.
It's a good thing waffles are better than pancakes anyway, so we're all good.
That'll be our food question to go out on. Tien wants to know, have the Dodgers arrived in Milwaukee? Yes, they worked out tonight, I believe, right?
Yeah, they landed and went straight to the ballpark to do all that stuff.
Okay. Iris wants to know, Anthony, have you stayed at the Haunted Pfister Hotel? Is that in Milwaukee?
It is, yeah, it's downtown. That used to be like the normal go-to team hotel for some reason. It's like old and like it's not super nice. But like it's haunted, and like there's been stories about like Mookie won't stay there if the team stayed there.
This is I was going to ask. So this is the place where he rents his own Airbnb every year?
Yes. Yeah. I would imagine that they've stopped staying at the Pfister. It's just not a great hotel. Like, so I used to live there, and I've gone there to like drink and stuff. It's like it's a historic landmark sort of, but it's just not modern and not very up to date. So there's like several better hotels that teams should be staying at in downtown Milwaukee. So no, to answer your question, I have not stayed there either as a reporter or when I lived there. But I have stepped in there to have some tequila.
Did a ghost serve you your drink at the bar? Maybe
No.
after the third one, it might have
Yeah,
felt like that was happening.
I did start to see some things like 3/4 of the bottle in.
Yeah,
Like,
there you go. Aaron wants to know, Jeff, thoughts on the Oregon Ducks. It was ugly, embarrassing. Honestly, as we were talking this out, I was like, dang it. It's a lot of the things I thought about the Indiana Hoosiers before they came into Eugene. And a lot of the things I felt about the Ducks are things I felt about the Dodgers. So thankfully that was one game and we got outcoached. It was ugly, but I hope that's not a repeat in my life because Oregon, Indiana feels a lot like Dodgers Brewers. It's like the powerhouse team that's been there before, that's won everything versus the cute story, average Joes from Indiana, and didn't go well.
But I do wonder if some of like the Indiana aspect is just like they haven't been at this level yet, obviously, right? And so like it could be like they could end up being a very good
Totally.
team,
They are
and then
very
at the end of the season, like it's like, oh, like they were top 5 type thing, and so it's not
Totally.
as maybe bad as it. Not that it seems bad now. Like I was in and out of that game, so I don't know, and I don't follow obviously Oregon as closely as you do, but to me it came across as like these are two quality football teams, and Indiana just had a better day type thing.
Yeah. If we played them again, I would feel confident that we would beat them, but we just played really bad and got outcoached. So let's go out on this in the spirit of pocket pancakes. I'm sure we've had this question before. Pancakes, French toast, and waffles. Rank them. Matt, I'll come to you first.
Waffles, French toast, pancakes.
Okay. Anthony?
French toast, waffles, pancakes.
Correct answer. Anthony gets the correct answer. French toast is just, I bought some Hawaiian bread tonight just because at some point this week I'm making French toast out of that bad boy. It's just an elite option. My breakfast spot here, I just found out when they get to the part of like you get the eggs and they're like, okay, do you want toast? Do you want pancakes? The last time the lady was like, do you want toast? Do you want pancakes? You want French toast? I'm like, holy crap, French toast is an option? Of course I want French toast. So elite. And waffles, I would say second. And then pancakes, I would say third. So we all had pancakes third.
Yeah.
Are you out on pancakes or they're just the third best of
they're
this
like
group?
way down the list. I would probably eat onions before I ate those.
The pocket pancakes?
Yeah.
Okay. But on pancakes in general, are you out in pancakes or you think they're good? They're just third on this list.
They're just third on this list. Yeah.
It's the Shohei Ohtani of starting pitching, a la the food items we're talking about. It's no disrespect to who comes in third. Somebody had to come in third.
Yeah. If you're going like, who would I rather have up in a spot? Shohei, Mookie, or Teo? Teo's probably going to be third.
Freddie Freeman, disrespect. Jeez Louise. Do you hear this guy, Moreno?
Freddie Freeman has already gotten.
Well, because in certain situations, Jeff, like I might have to move Freddie up on that list. Teo is a clear third, is what I'm saying. Freddie wouldn't be a clear third.
Scenario where Teoscar Hernandez is ahead of Freddie Freeman for me.
No. I'm saying when you have Shohei and Mookie on the list, Freddie sometimes might jump ahead of.
Oh yeah.
If it's the bases loaded in Game 1 of the World Series and extra innings, I mean, he might be the first guy.
He might be first.
Some people have said that he's come through in that spot.
Okay, Matt, are you a pancake guy? Just third on this list, or you're out on pancakes?
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, I won't ask for them. Like I won't not eat them, but I it's not my preference at all.
Zip code 0. Soak your bread in melted ice cream and then fry it in smashed vanilla wafers. Look, I'm sure this is amazing. Just like who can do this? Who's like, you know what I'm going to do is throw a pint of ice cream in a bowl, leave it out overnight so we can make some French toast in the morning. Like I got small children. They would like that day would be a disaster from the get-go. So I'm sure this is delicious, but sorry, Zip code 0. I'm out on this one. I'm not a Nilla wafers guy either. So I might just go melted ice cream and stick with it. But yeah.
I'm going to have some ice cream after this.
Why do you want the melted ice cream though? Just eat ice cream.
Seriously, just make French toast and then throw ice cream on top.
Oh, there it is. That's the win right there. Yeah.
See, there we go. On that note, everybody, we appreciate you hopping in with us. We will have content for you on this channel tomorrow. Dodger Blue 1958. We will have a live show in the morning breaking down the releasing of the roster, expected around 8 a.m. As has been pointed out, the Dodgers are not exactly always prompt with their revealing of this. Obviously, they have to turn it in. When it actually gets announced is a different story. So we will have a live show at some point tomorrow morning. We will be posting an interview with the Brewers beat reporter. Again, that's Todd Rosiak of the Sentinel Journal. So that will be up on our channel tomorrow as well. Bruce and I will be live post-game tomorrow. So
And
again,
Blake's going to join you guys.
and
also
Blake will be joining us. So 5:08 p.m. is the game. So hopefully about 7:45, we're celebrating win number 1 for the Dodgers. We'll see, but we'll be live doing that as well. Matt, anything else I'm missing? We got a ton of interviews up on the YouTube page.
Yeah, we're gonna have we have all the press conference footage throughout the NLCS. We'll obviously be at the stadium and stuff like that throughout the week. Scott's show, he's doing his unplugged. I know tomorrow for game 1, since it's a game day, he will be at 12. I'm guessing maybe for game 2 it'll be at 12. It seems that when it's there's a game that he tries to push it back a little bit so that hopefully lineup and just additional information is out to kind of do more of a preview show type thing. Ricardo, he's asking what time tomorrow live. So we'll have our post-game live show after the game, whenever that ends. Jeff, I felt like you were a little aggressive there with thinking how early it'll end. You forget
7:45. You don't think we're getting a 2-hour and 40-minute game 1?
No, these teams they love matchups, pitching changes, pinch hitters, all of that.
Be optimistic, you know.
Not a lot of first pitch balls in play.
Whenever game 1 ends, we'll be live. Jeff mentioned, I think Jeff, you and I will probably maybe try to.
We'll probably be live around 8:30 in the morning. Is the hope.
Assuming it's out. Yeah,
Assuming
maybe it's a little bit closer to 9 the way it was for the NLDS, but we'll have something up. And again, if you miss our live shows, like they do stay up on YouTube and they are podcasted as well. Like majority of our lives, well, all of our live stuff and interviews that we do are, as Jeff mentioned, you can find Apple, Google, the Dodger Blue app. I know that we've plugged that. You can read our articles there. You can get our content through that as well. So we're trying to cover as many bases as we can for you guys. If you're more audio, if you're video, if you like to read, we like to think of ourselves as having a little bit of everything for everybody.
Absolutely. That is Matthew Moreno. That is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate everybody hopping in with us. Enjoy the rest of your night. Go Dodgers. And of course, yes, still champs.